In a previous lesson, we introduced the definition of the supremum of a set, which, if it exists, is basically just the least upper bound. We also introduced the definition of the infimum of a set, which, if it exists, is the greatest lower bound. In today's Wrath of Math lesson, we'll be introducing and proving an equivalent definition for the supremum of a set, and a similar equivalent definition for infimum of a set. And I'll leave a link in the description to that previous lesson introducing the definitions of supremum and infimum. Firstly, let me point out, in this original definition, we defined the supremum of a set S, where S is a subset of any ordered field. This equivalent definition is stated with S being a subset of the real numbers, but we could just as well say that S is a subset of any ordered field. But if you're studying real analysis, of course, you're interested in the real numbers. The equivalent definitions we're proving today involve epsilons greater than 0, which is something we'll be getting used to as we continue to study real analysis. Very quickly, let's get a feel for why this new definition is equivalent to the original definition. It's pretty straightforward, and then we'll jump into the proof. In the original definition, we call the supremum B0, and in this equivalent one, we call it alpha. Of course, it doesn't matter. The first condition of the original definition is that B0, the supremum, is an upper bound of the set. And of course, that is exactly the same as our first condition for this equivalent definition. Alpha is an upper bound of the set. The second condition of the original definition says that any other upper bound must be greater than or equal to B0, the supremum, since the supremum is the least upper bound. And the second condition of our equivalent definition is saying the same thing, but in a slightly different way. This condition is saying if we subtract any positive number epsilon from the supremum alpha, no matter how small epsilon is, the resulting number will not be an upper bound of S, because alpha, the supremum, is the least upper bound. So if we subtract anything from it, we will no longer have an upper bound. So hopefully that seems intuitive. Let's get into the proof. This, of course, is an if and only if statement, so for starters, we'll assume that we have the supremum of a set satisfying the original definition, and show that it must also satisfy this other definition. So we say, let the supremum of our subset of the real numbers equal alpha. It satisfies the definition of supremum. By definition of supremum, alpha, the supremum, is an upper bound of the set, so we are all done with the first condition. Next, we need to prove that for any epsilon greater than 0, alpha minus epsilon is not an upper bound of S. So we say let epsilon be greater than 0. Epsilon is some positive number. What does that mean? Well, it means certainly if we subtract epsilon from our supremum alpha, so we have alpha minus epsilon, this will be less than the supremum, less than alpha. And that immediately implies our desired result that alpha minus epsilon is not an upper bound of S. Alpha minus epsilon is not an upper bound of S. How do we know that? Well, remember, by definition of supremum, any upper bound other than the supremum must be greater than or equal to the supremum. Since alpha minus epsilon is less than alpha, our supremum, alpha minus epsilon cannot be an upper bound. Again, the supremum alpha is the least upper bound, so any smaller number can't be an upper bound, so we've proven that it satisfies the second condition as well. Thus, the supremum of a set, as originally defined, satisfies these conditions as well. Then, to finish proving that these are equivalent definitions, we need to show that an element satisfying these conditions also satisfies the original definition of supremum. So we've got some subset S of the real numbers, and we say let alpha be a real number satisfying conditions 1 and 2, and we want to show that alpha also satisfies the definition of supremum. First, by condition 1, we have that alpha is an upper bound of S, so we have satisfied the first definition of the supremum, that it is an upper bound of the set. Then we need to prove that any other upper bound of the set must be greater than or equal to alpha. That will finish proving that alpha is the supremum. So let's get another upper bound involved here. We'll say let beta be an upper bound of S. And we'll proceed with contradiction. So suppose for contradiction, SFC, that our upper bound beta is less than alpha. So we're saying suppose for contradiction that beta is less than alpha. Remember, since we're trying to prove that alpha is a supremum, we want to prove that any upper bound must be greater than or equal to alpha. So we're supposing beta is less than alpha. Can we show that this forces a contradiction? We sure can. What's going to happen if we subtract beta from both sides of this inequality? Well, we'll have that alpha minus beta is greater than 0. And what do we know about numbers greater than 0? Well, we know that if we subtract them from alpha, by condition 2, that resulting number will not be an upper bound of S. So we're using this alpha minus beta as our epsilon value. Thus, by condition 2, we know that alpha minus this positive number, alpha minus beta, is not an upper bound of S. But this, my friends, is a contradiction, because of course, alpha minus beta is equal to what? Well, you have alpha, which is just 0, and then you have minus negative beta, which is positive beta, so it's beta. So we're saying that beta is not an upper bound of S by condition 2, but that's a contradiction, because beta was defined to be an upper bound of S. Thus, there cannot be an upper bound of S that's less than alpha. Any upper bound must be greater than or equal to alpha, so we've satisfied the second condition of the definition for supremum. And so we can conclude that the supremum of our set S is, in fact, that number alpha that satisfied conditions 1 and 2. Thus, not only does the supremum of a set satisfy these conditions, but if an element satisfies these conditions, it must be the supremum of a set. And so we've proven that the supremum of a set is equal to alpha if and only if alpha satisfies these two conditions. We've proven the definitions are equivalent. Alright, now let's move on to proving that this similar definition for the infimum of a set is also equivalent to the original definition of infimum. This is very similar to the previous proof, so please do give it a try yourself, and I'm going to go through it pretty quickly because these are the same ideas. We let the infimum of our set equal beta, and we want to prove that beta must satisfy these two conditions. We know that it satisfies condition 1, being a lower bound, by definition of infimum. Then we want to prove that if we add any positive number to beta, we do not get a lower bound of the set. So we say let epsilon be greater than 0. Thus, beta plus epsilon is greater than beta, and thus by definition of beta being the infimum of the set, beta plus epsilon cannot be a lower bound of the set. Because by definition of infimum, any other lower bound would have to be less than or equal to the infimum. The infimum is the greatest lower bound. So by beta plus epsilon being greater than beta, we know that beta plus epsilon is not a lower bound. And so we've proven that if beta is the infimum of the set, it satisfies both of these conditions. Next, we want to prove that if beta satisfies these two conditions, then it is the infimum of the set by the original definition. So we say let beta be a real number satisfying conditions 1 and 2. It's a lower bound of our subset S, and given any positive number, if we add that positive number to beta, we do not get a lower bound. By condition 1, of course, we have satisfied the first condition of being an infimum. It is a lower bound. Next, we need to prove that any other lower bound of the set has to be less than or equal to beta. So we say let alpha be a lower bound of S, and suppose for contradiction that alpha is a lower bound greater than beta. That means, subtracting beta from both sides of that inequality, that alpha minus beta is greater than 0. Thus, we can use it as an epsilon value with our second condition. Since alpha minus beta is greater than 0, we know that if we add it to beta, we will not have a lower bound of S. So, beta plus alpha minus beta, which is equal to alpha, is not a lower bound of S, which contradicts the definition of alpha. It was defined to be a lower bound of S. Thus, alpha cannot be greater than beta. Hence, any lower bound of S, if we call it alpha, any lower bound of S must be less than or equal to beta. And thus, of course, beta is, by definition, the infimum of the set. So we've proven that the infimum of a set S must satisfy these two conditions, and we've proven that if an element satisfies these two conditions, it must be the infimum of the set S. Thus, the infimum of a set S is equal to beta if and only if beta satisfies these two conditions. We've proven the definitions are equivalent. And so that's how you prove these equivalent epsilon definitions for the infimum and supremum of a set. Hope this video helped you understand the proofs. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, need anything clarified, or have any other video requests. If you'd like to help support Wrath of Math so I can keep producing high-quality math videos for you, please consider making a small donation on PayPal or a small monthly pledge on Patreon. I'll leave links in the description. Thank you very much for watching, I'll see you next time, and be sure to subscribe for the swankiest math lessons on the internet.